estudiantes. Today we're going to look at these two verbs, saber and conocer. They both mean to know, but you use them in different circumstances. So saber is to know information or how to do something. And conocer, you could also kind of translate that as to be familiar with. This is what you would use for knowing nouns. So if you know people or you know a place, you're familiar with that place, or a thing. Maybe somebody would say, hey, you know that red light down the street? That would be conocer. You're more familiar with it. So that's the difference between the two verbs. They both happen to be a spelling change verb, which means that the yo conjugation we really just have to memorize. So let's look first off at saber and how to conjugate it. So I just told you the yo conjugation is going to be something a little different. So if it were a normal verb, it would just be S-A-B-O, right? Well, with the yo conjugation for saber, to say I know, it will be yo sé. The rest of the conjugations are going to be regular. So you take off the ER, it's an ER verb. Tú sabes, él sabe, nosotros sabemos, vosotros sabéis, and ustedes saben. With the verb conocer, it's the same story. The yo conjugation is a little different. So we would just take off the ER and replace it with an O, but that is not the yo conjugation. For the yo conjugation, you see this frequently with verbs that end in CER. We add a Z, so it will be conozco. And then just like saber, the rest of the conjugations are going to just be regular. So take off that ER, conoces, that means you know. Él conoce, nosotros conocemos. Vosotros conocéis. And ustedes conocen. So those are your conjugations. Not a lot to learn here. Just make sure that you spend some time on say and conozco. You definitely want to know those. Think about how often you say that you know something. These are frequently used verbs. Well, let's look at how to actually apply these. So if I want to say, do you know my friend Sarah? Let's look at the information. What is it that we want to know if somebody knows? My friend Sarah. So let's look back at our difference. Sarah is a person, so the verb will be conocer. So we're using conocer, and it's asking, do you know? And we'll just assume that this is informal. Do you know my friend Sarah? So we will use conocer to go with you, to conoces. Now with people, you will put an a in there. Conoces a, my friend, mi amiga. She is a girl, so it will be an amiga. And then Sara. Conoces a mi amiga Sara? And then to answer that question, yes, I know her, we will go with sí, yes. Now this is tricky. I've thrown in an object pronoun here. So think about your object pronouns. To say her, I will replace that with la. And remember, when you're saying a positive sentence, that la goes before the conjugation. So we will put la next, and then to change it from you know to I know, remember that is our irregular conjugation there, conozco. Sí, la conozco. All right, let's look at this next one. Do we all know how to drive a car? I've given you another kind of tricky one here. Do we all know? Well, let's first off look at which verb should we use. So what is it we're wanting to know? What we know? It is how to drive a car. So do I know how to drive a car? How to goes with saber. So for this one, we are going to use the verb saber. And now, do we all? In Spanish, todos would mean either all of us or all of them. So we'll put todos in there, and that's everyone. And we're saying, do we all? So we will conjugate saber to go with nosotros. So todos sabemos. Now when you're saying how to, you probably know at this point that how is the word como. But when we're using it with saber, we don't have to say como. We just follow it up with the infinitive. So to drive is manejar. And then un carro. And it is a question, so we'll put question marks around it. So todos sabemos, do we all know, manejar, how to drive, un carro, a car. All right, last one. You all know where she lives, right? So let's look at what it is that we know. We know where she lives. So our options are between saber and conocer. It is where she lives, so that is information. So it will be saber. So we're going to use saber for know. So you all know. So you all is ustedes. So we will conjugate saber to go with ustedes, saben. And then where, donde. And then she lives. So to live is vivir. And we're going to change that to she lives. Vive. And we could put our ella in there if we wanted to. In this case, I'm just going to leave it out. And then we want to turn it into a question. You all know where she lives. That's a statement. But then add right. You all know where she lives, right? So we could say no. Ustedes or saben dónde vive, no? Or we could say verdad. Saben dónde vive, verdad? Either way, that's like adding that right in there. So that's it. Saber and conocer. Work on the conjugations, especially say, conozco, and then the difference between the two.